Have you ever struggled to get people interested in your story? Here is how to hook them in just a few seconds. Hi, my name is Mercy, and I share tips and tricks on how to give and tell a very good and captivating story, irrespective of the field you belong. So today I will be giving you 3 ways that you can hook your audience with a captivating story. Before we dive into it, please subscribe to my channel so that you will be notified whenever I drop a new video. So let's get right into it. So many people don't even know that before you start telling a story or before you start explaining something, you should be able to catch the audience's attention. That's where the word hook comes in. So when people say hook, what comes to your mind? A fisherman, right? You see, before a fisherman catches his fish, he doesn't just go into the river or the ocean or wherever he wants to catch his fish from and catch the fish. No, he uses a hook, and on that hook he connects a worm or whatever he uses to entice the fish. Now when that fish sees that worm, it is caught on the hook and the fisherman is able to fish. So basically, a hook is something that you just use to get your audience's attention. Before you start telling a story, before you start narrating something, you don't just start by saying, oh, once upon a time, this thing happened, that thing happened. No. The first tip I'm going to give you is that you should be able to make a bold statement. Now, on one of my accounts, I have a faceless channel where I create African folk tales. Now, one of the videos I made, this was the hook I used.
If you see him in your dream, you will die.
Interesting, right? If you're the one that comes across that video, what would be the first thing that comes to your mind? I mean, you will start questioning. You will immediately become very curious. You immediately want to know what will happen when you see a dwarf in your dream. Now, that is a very, very bold statement. You see, with that kind of hook, I will be able, or I have been able, to draw my audience to my page to know what is actually happening in that story. Concept of making a bold statement is to do something that will bring your audience to you naturally. Something that will naturally just make them very inquisitive, something that will just make them drawn to you. That is the concept of a bold statement. Another scenario of making a bold statement is if, for instance, you have something to tell somebody and then you just walk up to the person and you're like, please, I want to say something to you. The person may not really be interested in listening to you. But when you are like, it's a matter of life and death, or it's something that can literally change your life, you will see that at that point you've caught the person's attention. So no matter how busy that person is, the person will want to listen to you. The same thing too in storytelling, in any area, be it in your business, be it in social media, be it in whatever you do, digital marketing or whatever, you should be able to say something that attracts the audience immediately to you. Now, tip number 2 is to always try to begin with a question. Now, imagine this scenario. Let's say you have a story to tell, let's say about a woman that aborted her child and is now regretting because of the effect. Probably she lost her womb or something like that. And then you come up and you're like, I want to tell you a story of a woman that aborted her child. I mean, that's is not something that may literally draw people's attention. But then if you begin the statement by saying, what would have happened if I didn't abort this child? At that very point, a question has been asked, and the audience will really want to know the answer to that question and know the reason why the woman is asking that question. That is a very good hook that has already caught the audience, that has already caught the attention of your audience naturally. When you ask questions, people now begin to relate to it on a personal level. Let's say you've asked that kind of question now, what if I didn't abort this child? Imagine your audience, somebody there is like literally thinking, okay, yes, what if I didn't abort this child? What if I did not do this thing this way? Sometimes you'll say the story and then people will begin to relate what you're saying to some personal circumstances of themselves. So asking a very vivid and catchy question draws the audience to want to listen to anything you have to say. So basically, this thing doesn't just boil down only to just storytelling, like I said. It boils down to every area. Like for instance, let's say business-wise, and then you want to get people's attention to your business, and you're like, what if I didn't sell this thing to you? What if you don't have this thing I'm selling in your house? What will happen to you? What if you don't use this water bottle every day? What will happen? People will begin to relate to it in a personal level, and at that point, you will get their attention. Third tip is to create a vivid scene. Now look at this hook I used for one of my stories.
Even in the midst of this happiness, Neka was very bitter. She was angry because she thought she would give birth first. Amoka wasn't happy too, but she didn't let it bother her. She continued with her business and hoped to give birth soon.
Now if you look at that scene, people begin to ask, why is Nneka still angry when she's already pregnant? And what does Amaka have to do in this whole scenario? Now that is a very vivid scene. Once people have seen something like that, they will want to know. They will start asking questions. They will literally want to know what is going on, what is making Nneka very angry, what is making Amaka the way she is. They literally want to know what led to that particular scene. You create that kind of scene, people's mind will begin to wonder, people's mind will begin to imagine what will happen or what happened before that kind of thing. You know, all their senses become so activated that they will literally want to know what you're talking about, because you've given them a very vivid imagination, you've given them something to think about. So creating a vivid scene is another way to hook your audience to whatever you have to say. So in a nutshell, the summary of all the tips I've given you are: number 1, make a bold statement. Number 2, try to begin with a question. And number 3, create a vivid scene. When you try these hooks in any kind of story you want to talk about, in any kind of information you want to try to pass, believe me, your audience will be hooked to you and they will always come back to you for more. So with all the tips I've given now, let's say I want to use a story to talk about my business. I would be like, do you know that you can achieve so much more with less time? This is Olu. Olu has not been able to do so much because he had a whole lot of activities. But with our premium housekeeping services, we've not only helped Olu tackle the area of cleaning, but also cooking and maintaining his house. Give us a call today and you will be as excited as Olu. Now, that looks and sounds like a simple ad, right? Well, it's actually a story because 1, I was able to make a bold statement by attracting the audience. There are people out there that need help in different ways. 2, I've asked a question in my bold statement. And 3, I've created a vivid scene in the sense that Olu, who was so helpless before, all of a sudden had help because he engaged in our services. So I hope my tips will be helpful in helping you create your next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in my next video. Bye.